welcome to the latest instalment of Dr Neil Pickles Presents Fun with Pipettes. We're not actually using pipettes today, we're going to look at pH meters, how they work and how to calibrate them, which is an important concept. Now just to remember, pH is a measure of the hydrogen ion concentration, and so is the inverse log of the hydrogen ion concentration. So in the next part of the video I'm going to show you how to set up and calibrate a pH meter. This is a standard pH meter that we use, and you can see the electronic display here. It displays the temperature and it also displays the pH value here. And then there are a number of buttons at the bottom which are used to standardise and set up the equipment, which will be the next part of the video. First thing to show you is the electrode. Now the electrode should be stored with a cap on the end which contains a small amount of buffer. So the first thing we do is to gently take the cap off. This is a glass electrode, so we want to be careful with it. And this is the electrode here, and the electrode is sensitive and permeable to hydrogen ions. So the more hydrogen ions that pass through, the lower the pH value, because it will be acidic. So the important part of the electrode is the bottom couple of centimetres or so. So it's important that we don't touch the bottom if possible. And the first thing we do is we take some distilled water and we just rinse. But you notice that I am rinsing without actually touching the electrode. The only thing touching the electrode is the water. Now that the electrode has been washed, we are ready for the next stage, which is calibrating the pH meter. Now, pH meters need to be calibrated at regular intervals to make sure that they're giving the accurate readings. So what we do is we use some buffer solutions, and one option is to use buffer tablets that are being supplied. This is a pH 4 buffer tablet, and we would dissolve one tablet in 100 ml of distilled water. To pH 7 buffer tablets, which we would also dissolve in another 100 millilitres of distilled water, and the manufacturers guarantee that they are stable pH values. However, for today, we're going to use some pre-made buffer solutions, which are supplied in sachets such as this. This is a pH 4 sachet and a pH 7 one, which we have just opened and put into the beakers. And now we're going to use these to calibrate the pH meter. So the next step is standardising or calibrating the pH meter. So the first thing that we do, whenever we're putting the electrode in a new solution, we always rinse first into our waste beaker, like so. And then the first solution is the pH 4 buffer. We put that in and we allow the pH value to stabilise, and then we press the standardise button, which is the large button on the bottom. And you can see on the value you get a value of 100%, and it's standardised now at pH 4. The pH meter has been standardised to the pH 4 solution, but that's not enough yet. We need to use at least another solution, and so we rinse the electrode again as it's going into a different solution. And we now place it in the pH 7 buffer. And as before, we allow it to stabilise for a moment. And then we press the standardise button again. And you can see it's standardising to 7, and so that means the pH meter is now standardised to pHs 4 and 7, which means we can use the pH meter reliably for our readings in whatever experiment we're doing. Another important point about the maintenance of a pH meter is that when you're finished, again, a good rinse with distilled water, and then carefully place the cap back on the end of the electrode. If you don't have a cap, or you think the cap is low on buffer, it's important to ask a member of staff who can help you and tell you what needs to be placed in the cap, and nice and gentle you make sure that the electrode is immersed in the buffer, and then the electrode can be safely stored. Okay, that's the end of that video about using a pH meter. I hope you'll find it useful. If you haven't looked already, check out my other videos on the YouTube channel, and also you can follow me on Twitter @NAPickles. Thank you very much.